Now, there are 5 steps to your marketing success. Number 1, you've got to pick your target prospects. There are 2 ways that you can market to find sellers. One is the shotgun approach, and one is a targeted approach. Shotgun approach is where we hand out some business cards, we put out some flyers, maybe we run an ad in the newspaper and put some signs out, and we hope that somebody in that big group of people has a property they need to sell. What I want to teach you how to do today is to reach very highly qualified sellers who are much more likely to want to deal with you. In doing it that way, you make your marketing dollars stretch a whole lot further. Number 2, you've got to mail a proven letter. You've got to be mailing something you know works. If you're not mailing a letter that you know works, you're wasting your marketing dollars. Now, how are we going to know what makes a proven letter work? Well, number 1, let's tell the seller what it is you want them to do. If you don't tell your seller what you want them to do, they won't do anything at all. They'll just sit on their butts and they won't do anything at all. Number 2, give the seller multiple ways to contact you. This is very, very important. The more ways you give a seller to contact you, the more of them are going to, because you're going to be reaching them at their comfort level. So give them a telephone number, give them an email address, give them a fax phone number, give them a snail mail address, a mailing address. The more ways you give them a website address, the more ways you give that seller to contact you, the more of them are going to. I will tell you right now, 90% of the sellers I work with, 90% of the sellers I work with do not pick up a telephone and call me. Is that okay with you guys? They will contact me in every other way I give them first. Why do you think that is? Because I told them to. Okay? I don't want them to call me. I want them to give me all the information that I need, and then I'll determine whether or not there's a deal there to be made. So number 3, tell the seller what information you need in order to determine whether or not there's a deal there to be made. So you're not wasting your time or theirs on deals you're never going to do. And number 4, ask that seller to go ahead and include some photographs. Now let me tell you about a deal that I've been working on for about the last week and a half or so. The seller responded to a mailing. And he sent a letter back to me, which is pretty typical. And the letter's in a 9.5 by 11, you know those brown clasp envelopes? It was in one of those. I thought, okay, this is interesting. So I open it up and there's a letter in there telling me everything about his property. Awesome. In the envelope, there's a copy of his deed, which I didn't ask him for. In the envelope is a copy of a plat map, which I didn't ask him for. In the envelope are a half a dozen photographs of the property. That was really good. In the envelope, there's another piece of paper with a hand-drawn map with handwritten directions how to get to the property. Is this the kind of motivated seller you want to deal with? Okay, I'm just in the beginning of the offer-making process on this particular deal, but I will buy that deal. I know I will. The more information they give you, the better deal you're going to make. All right. Number 3, we've got to answer the responses from the sellers. And I know how simplistic that sounds, but I also remember the early days of my business when I hadn't done very many deals yet. Do we have folks who have not done your first deal yet? Just a few. Good. Good, you're in a very, very good place, by the way. So you've got to answer the responses from the sellers. And I know how simple that sounds. But sometimes we get really, really busy and we get really tied up in all kinds of things. And, gee, we just don't have the time to do that. Or we just procrastinate. You've got to answer the responses from the sellers. Now, one thing that I do that helps me to follow up with sellers very simply is I use a software system to help me do that. And we're going to be talking a lot more about that a little bit later on. Number 4, we're going to buy some houses. And number 5, we are going to create a system for you that's going to bring you deal after deal after deal after deal. Is that all right with everybody? Yeah. Terrific.